The team behind TikTok just released their new AI video model that beats VEO3 across their benchmarks, but at a 10 to 30 times cheaper price. I created these viral cat videos using Seedance in a very simple n8n workflow. Here's how it works. There are different ways to trigger a workflow like this, but in our case, we're gonna start off with a chat message. So let's say, and that's going to trigger everything. So now that it finished running, let's walk through each individual node. The first step is feeding the chat message into an OpenAI model that's going to generate the text to video prompt. So you want to hit tab, OpenAI, message a model. And from here, you're going to connect to your credentials if you haven't already, in which case you can grab your API key from your OpenAI platform. Within this node, you can specify, the model that you want, which we're just choosing the latest 4.0 model, and then we're going to enter our prompt here, which is a system, and then the user message, which is basically the cat waiting for Subway. Now, this prompt was inspired by the Studio Ghibli trend that happened a couple months ago, where people were submitting their photos to ChatGPT 4.0 and having it spit out a Studio Ghibli version of it. Now, with this case, we're going to be giving the chat input dynamically into this prompt, and then giving it the task to create a prompt that's inspired by the Studio Ghibli art style. So when we gave it the cat waiting for Subway input, this is what came out. A fluffy orange cat, very similar, quietly sitting on a wooden bench at an underground subway, and you can pause to read here. But ideally, we're going to get as descriptive as possible from this AI prompt and feed it into Seedance. Now the next step is to connect to Seedance via an HTTP request. And if you're not familiar with that, basically we are trying to access an API endpoint for something that's not natively built into or not natively accessible in n8n. So from here, you'll notice that we're not directly connecting to Seedance, but we're going through a marketplace called WaveSpeed. WaveSpeedAI, like I said, is a marketplace where you can access different API endpoints, in which case we're going to be using this one to access Seedance. And I'll leave a link down in the description to this page right here. What's important is going to API, and you can see that there's different requirements that we need to fill out in that HTTP request node. So you can copy this and import the CRL, but I'm going to just do this manually so it's easier to understand. So you would copy this and all these information into our HTTP request node. So you can see here it's a post request. We put in that initial API endpoint URL, authentication none, send headers. Now this is where you want to put your authorization and then your API key. So going back to WaveSpeed, if you go to access keys here in the top right, you can grab or create a new key. And that's the key you'll need to run the request. So that's the format, bearer, and then your key. Content type is going to be application/JSON. And down here, and this is where we're going to specify our aspect ratio, how long we want it to be, and then we're going to dynamically map our prompt as well, just grabbing from the previous node content and slapping it in here. And after that, it'll just run the request and you'll get an output giving you the ID of the request, in which case we'll have to grab at a later time. Now, once we run this request, it's going to take some time to process. And so we're going to put a wait node in here for around 60 seconds so that we can give enough time for Seedance to create this video. The next step is another HTTP request, but this time we're going to be getting the video from that ID. So going back to WaveSpeed, in the API section, query result, this is the get request that we're going to use to actually download and access that file. So remember, it's going to be a get request. We're going to copy and paste that endpoint, but dynamically map this JSON data ID here. So we're going to grab it from here and then slap it in here. And same thing with the headers, just our authorization, bearer, and then our API key. The one limiting thing about Seedance versus VEO3 is that we can't create sound as of yet. So we're going to need to use a different software, which is fine. But just for the sake of this video and keeping it simple, we're going to do everything within WaveSpeed so that's all interconnected. So in WaveSpeed, they have something called MMA Audio V2, and you can see that some of the requirements is that we need to include the video and then a prompt, and it'll create the respective sound effect or music behind it. So this is where we're going to be dropping in our file that we just created. And when we look at the API documentation, this is similar to the first HTTP node we had, where we're going to just copy this and all this information into our node. So it's a post request with our URL, same gist with the headers, and for the body, it's going to be a little bit different, but almost the same thing. Different key value pairs, duration, guidance scale, and you can play around with this. For me, I said I wanted a gentle piano for the prompt, just like some background music. And the video is what we're going to get from our previous get video node. So it's going to be this ID. Oh, sorry, not the ID. It's going to be this output, and we're going to put in here. Same deal. We're going to be waiting 60 seconds to let this finish processing, and then we're going to get the sound. So after waiting 60 seconds, we're going to use this get request here and get the completed video. And so in our node, we're going to also dynamically map this ID. It's pretty much identical to the get video HTTP node. The one good thing about having everything done within WaveSpeed is that they're actually going to stitch the video and the sound together and just have one video, versus if you used a different software, you would have a video and then a sound, and you would need another HTTP request to stitch them together. The last step, I'm just connecting it to a database, a Google Sheets, so we can kind of keep track of everything that is going through this workflow. So we kept it simple, just the prompt, the date it was created, and then the video ID in which you can download here directly. So let's take a look. So this is the 5-second video that was just created with the piano music in the background. I have no idea what's going on with the cup, but it does help with the Studio Ghibli vibes, so I'm okay with it. So from that Google Sheets database, you'll have the full list of every video that's created, and you can just grab that and upload it manually into TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, all that stuff. Or obviously, if you want to have this completely automated, you can connect it to a third-party software that'll upload it all at once for you. But that's pretty much beyond the scope of this video. I wanted to show you really quickly how you can build something like this in 5 to 10 minutes. Get ahead and start uploading and creating these viral videos at a fraction of the cost of VEO3. And if you use something like this, you can literally post hundreds of videos a week. And if you're able to really dial down the prompting and get it consistent, you can almost create a character that'll help start building a consistent audience and a consistent following versus just creating random cat videos every week. And if you're a business, imagine the stuff that you can do in terms of marketing and content creation with a tool like Seedance. So hopefully that was helpful. Feel free to subscribe and let me know down in the comments if you have any questions and anything else you would like to see.